Okay, so Hardik, thank you very much for joining us here today. Could you give us a bit of background to yourself, your role, and Currencies Direct, please?
Sure, thanks for having me. My name's Hardik Shah. I head up product and propositions for Currencies Direct, looking after the experience for consumers, mass market consumers, corporates, and our partner network. I've been at Currencies Direct for 3 years. Currencies Direct itself is a brand that looks after international payments and has been around since '96. This is all we do.
Well, with that in mind, what do you think? What is the problem that Currencies Direct was effectively built to solve? How does Currencies Direct differentiate itself?
So Currencies Direct can be considered as the original Fintech, if you were to say that. We were formed in 1996 as the first specialist payments provider, international payments provider outside of the core banks. And over time, as you can imagine, a lot has changed. But the reason for existence stays the same, which is to provide a better experience for consumers to move and manage their money across borders. The competitive landscape and customer expectations are a lot different now compared to 1996. And we've continued to evolve the business to meet these expectations. So to answer your question of how we differentiate from the market, we have an unparalleled customer service proposition and market-leading technology. So we combine those two facets to provide the best-in-class customer experience that I think our customers resonate with. So for example, our Trustpilot scores is 4.8, which is one of the highest in the industry and amongst our peers.
Now, payments has obviously changed dramatically since the 90s, and in particular, what are some of the issues that you see that arise from sending payments around 120 different countries, 40 different currencies? How has that landscape changed in the recent years?
Sure. Unsurprisingly, customers just want to send their payments as quickly as possible with the least amount of effort to the right destination. So the emotion at the heart of what they're trying to do has stayed the same over time as well. However, with the increase in fraud, in money laundering, unethical behaviors, we're seeing enhanced regulations being introduced across the globe. And this varies by country and by currency. So different countries have different requirements, like for example, to send a Canadian dollar, you need to have the recipient's address. To send a payment to India, you need to have a specific reason code. And this makes the journey of transacting a little bit more complex than we would hope or we would like. But to combat this and to combat the varying journeys that customers have to go through, we're working with third parties like the Validate service to make the transfer journey as frictionless as possible.
Yeah, I think that's becoming increasingly important, just having that frictionless experience. So, what are you seeing as the key expectations from customers nowadays? And what would you consider excellent user experience now from a product side of things? And how does Currencies Direct differentiate itself from the market when it comes to customer experience?
A few years ago, customers were solely after the rate. If you provided the most competitive rate or the best rate in the market, then you're more likely to get the customer's deal. And this still stays at the core, but expectations have changed over time. So now customers want transparency. What's the rate? If there are any fees involved? When will the payment be sent? When will the payment be received? They also want a feeling of control. So the ability to send the payment when they want, have multiple payment settlement options, whether that's debit, credit, PayPal, etc. The channel of choice. So we know lots of neobanks, for example, are mobile only, but we see that our customers and the customers we're targeting want a channel of choice to trade. So mobile, online, offline, telephony, and branch. We have a branch network in Spain and in Portugal to make the transfers. And the third thing is they want reassurance. So a recent industry report found that 39% of those that send an international payment worry about the wrong details, worry about entering the wrong details and losing money. And that's huge in today's age, I think, considering with all the new technology available, and all the new technology available, and something we're actively working on. So we're utilizing tech and our service proposition to address these expectations. For example, for years, customers in the research that we've conducted in industry research, you'll see that customers have been saying they want to track their payment. It's funny that you can track a pizza, but you can't track a 500,000 payment that's sent across the world. So recently, we've introduced a payment tracking feature for our customers to track their payment from initiation to it being accepted by the corresponding bank. Now, we've got some way to go before providing that end-to-end tracking functionality in real time, where you can see the money land in your recipient's account. But this is the start, and we will continue to work with the industry, with partners, to get to that end goal.
Incredible. And it's absolutely absurd to think that there hasn't been that level of transparency so far in the industry, especially when we're talking about these numbers, which for a lot of people are it's quite a lot of money. So with that in mind, where in the payment flow with Currencies Direct do you use Validate?
Sure. In short, we use the Validate product in our core transaction journeys across both offline and online for corporates and for consumers, so mass market customers. Earlier, we discussed about consumers needing reassurance. And one of the major anxiety moments is setting up a new international payment to a new recipient. Customers worry about the details being incorrect, and they also worry that the payment may be delayed, where the wish is that the payment is sent without delays and to the right individual. So we use Validate to verify the beneficiary details prior to the transfer and play back the results to the customer, so they can see that the details are correct and address anything if there is an error. This saves payments being delivered to the wrong place and therefore having to track back that payment, and also payments going straight through as opposed to falling into manual repair queues, which creates a burden for operations and internal teams, and also the customer experiencing delays on their payments. Last year, we introduced mass payments for corporate customers. And I think our mass payments platform is fairly unique in the market. I couldn't imagine the pain a customer would have to go through if they had to manually verify the payment details for thousands of payments that need to be made in a matter of minutes. So our mass payments platform, which we introduced last year, allows corporates to process 1,000 payments per minute. We utilize Validate as one of the services to validate payments in real time, so that corporates can see, their 1,000 ticks or in 1 minute, which I think is phenomenal to process payments quickly at minimum fuss and a seamless experience.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds absolutely incredible for corporate customers. I mean, we always hear about small, medium enterprises being incredibly time poor. To be able to then just see that level of transaction data so clearly and quickly must mean so much to them. So with that in mind, we're seeing all this brand new payment technology, and we're seeing these payment trends that customers are now demanding that you've mentioned. But what does the future look like for Currencies Direct? And are you seeing shifts in the way that cross-border transactions are being carried out that you think Currencies Direct might take advantage of in the future to help your customers?
The goal for us, it's particularly me, is to provide a richer experience both to new customers and existing customers. This could be with the introduction of new products and services, which we're continuously working on, or optimizing current features, which could have huge benefit for the end consumer. So for example, we need to start utilizing services like Validate further to help with payments to exotic countries like India, where there are local restrictions, for example, the reason to send money, the address, and so forth. For consumers, macro environmental factors like Brexit, our favorite topic, like COVID, will mean that global money management will become more prevalent than ever before. Cross-border e-commerce transactions, salary settlements, and funds to support living between destinations are just some of the aspects that we're looking at, and those are things that we're actively looking to develop products to address and serve. For corporates, I feel the key will be collaboration and partnerships. So we've recently announced the Currencies Direct partnership with Hargreaves Lansdown as their selected partner to provide FX and international payments to their customers. And we believe the future is in integration and in partnerships. And this is where our focus is over the next year or two.
So I want to actually explore your role a bit more. Cross-border payments, typically not something that someone thinks about a lot, especially when it comes to a product. Can you tell us some of the biggest customer pain points that customers may face when making a payment on the product side that they may not have thought of before?
Absolutely. So, like you said, one of the biggest parts of the role in Currencies Direct for myself is to remove the pain points that customers have when making a transaction with us. So, for example, when you're adding a new recipient, lots of customers think that, and previous experience would tell them, that they would need an IBAN, a SWIFT BIC, if the bank address, for example, the bank branch name, for example, before they can make a payment. And what we've tried to do is try to streamline that transfer journey, especially when adding a new recipient, by utilizing services like Validate. So, for example, with Validate, a customer only needs an IBAN, and it's like a wow moment at that time. So a customer comes onto our platform, enters an IBAN number, we validate it internally, and then using Validate services, we play back the bank information, for example, the SWIFT BIC, the bank address, etc. And I think that creates a delightful moment in the customer's transaction journey because they're seeing, that they only have to enter one reference point, and they can see that all the details that they would have entered previously have been entered on their behalf. The second one, what I was going to talk about, was that we see use cases where, like, I was on a research session yesterday where this lady was like, my son lives in Australia, for example, and it's like a student fee that she has to send. And her view was that, she saw a great rate at one point, and she thought she should buy the currency now and send it to him. But then she thought that, he'll just use it up immediately.
Yeah.
So now she sends it in chunks. But obviously what's happened is that the rate has dipped.
Yeah.
So we've introduced things like multi-currency wallet, for example, where customers can buy the currency, store it, and then use it at a later date whenever they would like, for example.